Hello everyone, welcome back to Speaking Spurs with me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham on what is going to be one of the most depressing videos I've had to do in a while. And that's because, as many of you will already know, the news has come out that Bentancur injury is more serious than we thought, up to 6 months on the sidelines at least. So yeah, welcome to the channel. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Don't forget to support the video with a like. And as always, leave your comments below on what is going to become a very, very difficult situation for us, just because of everything else adding up. Now, it's amazing that in the last video, not the YouTube short, in the last proper video, after the great result against Manchester City at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I was talking about the fact that last season, at this point, we had no injuries. We then went into the last 15 games of the season with great confidence and were the best performers. Turns out I've jinxed it, because then obviously the following day we found out that Hugo Lloris was going to be out for 6 to 8 games, 6 to 8 weeks, with his knee injury. Then we found out Yves Bissouma was on crutches and he's got to undergo surgery. And then before the game yesterday, we found out that Sess was going to be missing for at least 6 weeks with an injury, another hamstring injury, might I add. He's had a succession of these in his career. And now, to top it off, Bentancur out for at least 6 months. Look, it's a pretty dire situation. What makes it worse is it's happened after the January transfer window, meaning we cannot do anything about it. To make things worse as well, we've obviously got AC Milan in the Champions League coming up, with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg suspended for the game, which means we're now relying on a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old in the form of Pap Matasar and Oliver Skipp to see us through in that game. So, let's talk a little bit about yesterday's disappointing game. And I'll talk about some of the things that I think Conte got wrong. Because I feel like some of those decisions didn't necessarily cause us to lose the game, but didn't help us. So, similar to last season, we beat Manchester City at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Great result. More goals in it last time. And then the following game, we go and lose. So there's a pattern there. We have this habit of doing really well against certain teams and then struggling the game after. I don't know if it's because we put so much energy into the City game that we then go and lose. So yeah, last season we did that, then lost to Burnley. And this season we beat City, pour a load of energy into the game. Following game, we then go and lose, and this time to Leicester. So my first talking point, Emerson Royal. I think the guy has been completely mistreated in this scenario. I understand Porro is the new signing. I understand they wanted him in. The reason he didn't start the game against City is because he was ill in the build-up to that. Now, I wonder if he wasn't ill, would he have started the game? Despite the fact that traditionally Emerson Royal has played pretty well against the bigger clubs within the league, and against Manchester City last season. I think it was a terrible decision. I think a guy that was man of the match in the last game, who put in his best performance in a Spurs shirt, to then be put on the bench for somebody that, and let's talk about Porro, has just joined the team, has just come back off of an illness, so he's probably not up to match speed yet, hasn't trained with the players a whole lot, not familiar with the speed, the intensity of the Premier League. Yes, he played well against Tottenham in the Champions League, but that's different. It's completely different to a Premier League scenario when you're playing with a Premier League team against a Premier League team. You've got completely different styles of football from where he's come from to where he is now. It was too much too soon. And we saw that in the game. It wasn't particularly great. And I will... Will I talk about him? No, I won't. I'll just talk about him now. His debut itself wasn't great. He looked off the pace. He didn't manage to get forward as much as he would have liked to have done in this game, and that's because we were overrun. once again by a team below us in the table because we're quite easy to set up against. We play a counter-attacking style football. Every time we play a team where we should have more possession and take it to them, we struggle because we don't know how to take the game to people. We're very much set up to hit on the counter, and that's it. So Porro wasn't exactly helped in this game. The fact that the man next to him was Tanganga, somebody that is, well, what should we say? He looks like I wouldn't even say under 23s player at the moment. I'd say somebody in the development squad, Tanganga looks like. Every time he plays, he's over eager to impress, let's say. He has had bad injuries since he broke onto the scene under Jose Mourinho. And he's never really been the same since. He's kind of sat between right back and a centre-back, this time asked to play as a right centre-back, and it just doesn't work. Every time he's played this season, he's been erratic, over-eager, rushing into challenges, bad at judging the ball in the air, defenders constantly getting the better of him. I was very shocked not to see Sanchez in the starting lineup. And I think, again, the same as Emerson Royale, I think Sanchez was hard done by. He obviously played in the game against Preston. He was given the captain's armband and he played, I know it's championship team we're playing that don't score an awful lot of goals. But Sanchez played well in that game. He took the responsibility really well. You could have, if you wanted, played Sanchez in the middle and put Eric Dyer on the right because Dyer is a stronger candidate for right back than Davinson Sanchez, in my opinion, from what I've seen over the years I've been at Spurs. So, yeah, I think Emerson should have started, and I also think Sanchez should have started. That would have shored up that side of the pitch a little bit better. But let's talk about the rest of the team as a whole. So Forster obviously has come into goal to cover for Hugo Lloris. There was a lot of people criticising his performance. Look, he's a very different goalkeeper to Hugo Lloris. Very, very different. He's very tall. He's very strong. He offers completely different attributes. I think in the game, there are a couple of the goals that maybe Lloris would have saved, and I think that's down to the fact that Lloris is very quick off of his line, which makes up for the fact, or makes up for some of the time where defenders don't quite do their job properly and allow people to ghost past them. So, Fraser Forster, not quick off his line, not quick at all. We saw that in the game. Leicester decided with their goals to aim for the corners. And a tall guy takes longer to get down. Simple as. Reactions are a little bit slower as well than Hugo Lloris's. So, yes, a couple of them I would have said that maybe Lloris would have got to with his quicker reactions. But ultimately, we still would have lost the game because of other mistakes for in the game. So, yeah. What else? Dun, dun, dun. Right, let's talk about Eric Dyer. He's coming for an awful lot of criticism after this game. So he was superb against Man City, kept Erling Haaland completely at bay, moved into the midfield several times to give a little bit of extra support just in front of the defence. Completely different this time. His positioning was all over the place. He wasn't aggressive enough. He wasn't as commanding, as organising. I mean, he had a pretty poor game by his standards. And I know a lot of people are saying that when Romero's not in the squad, we don't see the best of Dyer. I don't necessarily think it's that. I think Dyer is a player, and it's not just about Romero. Dyer needs better defenders around him. I think the issue that Dyer had in this game, Tanganga's been very erratic, and it was Porro's first game. Dyer's been very good at organising the defence throughout the season, and in this game he had two people on one side that didn't really know what was going on. I mean, Tanganga was actually our best defender in the first half, which doesn't go to say a lot. But Dyer was having to... He had a left-hand side that knew what it was doing, and a right-hand side that had no idea what it was doing. And that showed in the game. I think he tried to compensate for them at times. It meant he couldn't fully concentrate on his own job role. And that's what I think affected him. So I'm not completely defending him. He has been very up and down in his Spurs career, but that's my take on it. Ben Davies, another guy that came in for a lot of criticism from Spurs fans. People saying he's not good enough. He is good enough. More often than not, we don't concede because of errors that Ben Davies has made. He's fairly reliable. He's going to give you at least a 7 to 8 out of 10 every game. I've got no issues with him. He does the job. But his poor pass led to a goal. He tried to play a ball into Harry Kane. Now, the issue with that was Perisic was the easy ball out on the left. He took a riskier pass towards Kane, didn't quite get it right. The challenge then comes in on Kane. We lose the ball, and then we leave a situation where Eric Dyer is out of position. Now, I say he's out of position. He's not, because the pass should have gone in to Perisic. Then where Dyer was, Perisic would have played the ball into Dyer. So I'm not going to be critical of Dyer on that one. It was purely Davies' fault for making the wrong decision. We lost the ball. We then conceded a goal from it. So that was just poor play all round from Spurs. Coming from something that should have been dealt with very easily. Leicester should have never even got the ball from that position. But apart from that, Davies didn't do too much wrong. He looked a bit nervy, but it seemed to be like it was the whole team. We've spoken about Porro. Not a great first game for Spurs. Perisic on the other side. My issue with him, he's having to play more games than we thought because of Sessegnon's inability to stay fit. Now, Perisic was brought in to add experience, to teach Sessegnon, and I think to an extent it's kind of been working. But he's having to play far too many games. Now, with Sessegnon out injured, this makes things even worse. Perisic is going to have to play near enough every game. And we'll talk about the injuries in a bit. But Perisic has not been at the races. Clearly, playing full matches is not working for him. Now we've got to rely on him. Wasn't particularly great in this game either. Moving into the midfield, Højbjerg, I feel, typically worked hard, but was overrun once again. And that's not his fault. I put that down to Conte for allowing another team to play against us, bulk out their midfield, and go through the gaps. So I refuse to blame Højbjerg for his performance. Bentancur, my issue with him in this game, I think he's a classy midfielder, I really do. But he picks up far too many bookings. He did it again. We weren't even 5 minutes in. It was 3 minutes something when he picked up his first booking. Now that limits what he can do for the rest of the game. He had a good reaction to get his goal. He also headed the ball off the line, which unfortunately led to their equaliser. So that was Perisic's fault. Bentancur headers the ball off the line. The ball comes out. Perisic, he doesn't commit himself. He runs halfway, stops, puts his hands behind the back, and then leans like this, and the ball... It was a beautiful strike, don't get me wrong. Absolutely beautifully hit. Quality goal. Forster couldn't do anything about it because if you watch the replays back from the angle the ball was struck at, you can see Forster is blocked by a defender, sees it late, can't get to it in time. But Perisic in that moment just needed to commit a lot further forward. He left a massive gap between him and the striker. So, again, just not good enough. But yeah, Bentancur did his bit there. Obviously then went off injured, and the rest is history. Kulusevski, struggling at the moment to make an impact. He come back from his injury and was very, very good for the first few games, but he's really struggling at the moment. I don't think it helped that Tanganga and Porro were down his side of the pitch. Didn't really give him much. Who else? Sonny. He's had 2 good games, and then this game he went back in his shell. He was very hesitant, and nothing was working for him. Harry Kane, he had some nice touches, but short of the levels that he's been at recently. Leicester is the team that he's scored more goals against than any other team he's come up against in his career. But I'm not going to blame him for having a bad performance, because if you don't get the service, you haven't got a chance to have a good performance. And the alternative is he comes back to collect the ball, but then we all moan that Kane's too deep. So that was your starting lineup. Subs. Sarr came on, slotted in okay. Richarlison offered very little when he came on. But I am getting sick and tired of Conte only using him when the game's kind of dead and buried, or once we're in a position where he needs to create a moment of magic in a game where the rest of the team are just not at it. I think that's unfair. He should definitely start more games, especially with Sonny being out of form. I think the time has come now where Richarlison deserves to start a game. He was unlucky to come back from the World Cup injured, hasn't had a proper rub of the green since he's been back, and we paid a lot of money for him. Emerson Royale, he then came on to help secure the right flank a little bit. Danjuma came on, tried, couldn't really do much. As I said, the rest of the team weren't in it. And then Sanchez came on finally, and he was a bit shaky, but, what can you do? The team weren't playing well. He was never going to come in and set the world alight as a defender. So, yeah, that was that. I will say, after the game, a lot of people were asking why Conte was there but didn't do the press conferences. So, having his gallbladder removed, it was an operation. He's still recovering. They're just getting him back involved because at the end of the day, he's the coach of the team. I must say I do prefer Stellini in the interviews afterwards anyway. I think a lot of the reporters do as well. Stellini, he gets to the point quicker. He's less sensitive about things. He's less cryptic. So I think you get more out of him. So as a fan, I actually prefer him there because at Conte interviews after the games, I think you'll remember since this channel started, I've spoken about what managers say in their press conferences, and I've spoken less and less this season. And that's just because I'm bored of Conte coming out with all this cryptic rubbish that doesn't mean anything. So, yeah, I much preferred Stellini. Richarlison, I was saying, he needs more game time. Another note that I've got here, Moura was back on the bench. That's a good sign. He might have to be used more as the season wears on now with all these injuries. We got lucky that Newcastle dropped points in their game. However, Manchester United have played their game today and won 2-0 against Leeds. Man City are currently playing at the moment against Aston Villa. So I'd expect them to pick up another victory as well. All these teams just pushing further and further away from us. Fulham got a win as well to put pressure on. Brighton are in a position where they can overtake us. And, the injuries are just mounting and mounting. But it's been a week of bad news for us. So obviously, yes, the Lloris injury is obviously a blow. Forster's not going to offer the same as him. And the goalkeeper is part of our system as well. It very much is. The goalkeeper coming out quickly, it helps the defensive line. Sessegnon's injury for 6 weeks obviously now puts us in a position where Perisic has got to play more. And I just want to talk about why this transfer window in January is a bit of a fail, because we've allowed Spence to go out on loan. I don't know if Spence can play on the left because I haven't ever seen or know of games where he's played there. But we also allowed Doherty to go on a free. Doherty has played on the left for us. I know we couldn't have seen these injuries coming before, but there is a reason why Chelsea, Manchester City, teams like that often have big squads and 2 to 3 players for most positions, because if anything does happen, like this situation, you've got the cover straight there. Doherty has played on the left for us. He's capable to play at an okay standard. We've also got Reguilon out on loan that is capable of playing that position for us. It's just a shambles. I would love to be positive in this video, but I really can't. Perisic is going to be running to the ground now. Royale will probably get a bit more game time. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him stay on the right and maybe try Porro on the left at some point as well. Bissouma's, I feel sorry for Bissouma now. Bentancur being out injured would have been the moment where Bissouma would have got an opportunity to come into the squad and have a decent run of games to try and bed himself in. Issue is, he's obviously out with a stress fracture in his left ankle, will require surgery. We don't know the length of time he's going to be out for, or if he'll be back at any point this season. It's just terrible, isn't it? Like, I'm so sorry to be so depressive, but you're just looking at this list: Lloris, Sessegnon, Bissouma, Bentancur, it's huge. Moura's obviously just come back from injury. And then even before that, we've had our injuries, haven't we? Richarlison with his injury, Son's lack of form. I can't believe that a week ago I was talking to you about the fact that we've got a fully fit squad running into the end of the season, and now we've lost all these players in one hit. If a centre-back can you even think? If a centre-back now gets injured, that's our season just completely done. I don't think we can take it. Or, God forbid, Harry Kane gets injured. I mean, yeah. So Bissouma's chance to bed into the squad isn't going to happen now. But I will say, for Skip and Sarr, this will be a baptism of fire for them. And for them, it's probably the best scenario. They were going to struggle for game time. They were going to be bit part players coming in with 10, 15 minutes to go in games that are dead and buried. They wouldn't have developed enough, I feel. Højbjerg will naturally come back after his suspension. He's going to be heavily relied on now. But I think Højbjerg looks so much better when he's with Bentancur. I think they complement each other really, really well. So now he's not only going to have to cover all that ground, he's going to have to be a leader. I mean, what I would have preferred in this situation with Bentancur now out is I think we need to change the system. I think now is the time to go with Højbjerg, with somebody next to him, i.e. Skip or Sarr, and then play somebody in a number 10 role. I don't know whether that's you drop Kane a bit deeper into the number 10 role. Do you bring Lucas Moura into that position? I don't know. It's just a shame someone like Giovanni Lo Celso is out on loan. But I think now's the time. We need the extra protection. I think the system is going to have to change. It will be a good thing for Sarr and Skip. They're not going to have any choice. They're going to have to play. Yeah. Oh, and then just one other bit of bad news to tip it off. The £42.5 million sponsor bid for a 3-year deal from the South African Tourist Board fell through as well. So there's a bit of extra revenue gone that we would have probably used towards some of the money for our summer signing of Pedro Porro, because obviously that money's now got to be paid in the summer. But yeah, great video. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Ridiculously poor performance against Leicester, and we now have 1, 2, 3, 4 starting players injured. A right wing back that is not ready for the Premier League. Players out on loan. Deals falling through for sponsorship. It's a great time to be a Spurs fan. However, AC Milan, we'll talk about the next game, they've not been in the best run of form themselves in the league. So I feel like this is a game that either team could take. I wouldn't be surprised if we go through in the Champions League. I just can't see us getting all the way to the final. I don't think this squad has it in them, especially now after the injuries. I don't even know what this means for us in the FA Cup now, because naturally the league is going to be our biggest push. Players are going to be stretched thin. Oh, that just feels terrible. This could be our season completely undone. And I feel like, I know obviously this isn't down to me, but I just feel after talking about no injuries last week that I've jinxed it. I know Gunslinger, if you're watching, we were having a bit of banter about it in the comments section on YouTube. You know, as one fell, then another fell, and the situation is just terrible. But anyway, thanks for sticking around for that rain of positivity. I know you didn't enjoy it, but I hope you tolerated the video well. So thank you for that. I have been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. And until next time, come on you Spurs.